Welcome back. In this video, we will study the second set of mindfulness practices for a peaceful life. Let us keep in mind that peace is health. When we move away from our peaceful place, we move into a state of dis-ease or illness. The second set of mindfulness practices, living a peaceful, healthy life, there are 10 practices in all. The first 5 are called the Yamas, which means to be mindful of the way we are operating in our lives and adjust it with mindfulness practices to make sure we're operating in a peaceful, healthy, effective manner. According to ancient classical yoga, there are 5 things, 5 thieves that can rob us of our peace, and we want to be mindful that they do not. And if they come to rob us, our peace practices is the way that we can send them away. These 5 thieves are anger, which turns into hatred and then violence, dishonesty, which brings a lot of anxiety, or taking something that is not freely given, or taking too much. In those states, it brings us a lot of dis-ease into our being. And the creative energy, our sexual energy, and attachments, something that we are holding on to that needs to be let go of. Let us discuss and explore each one of these one by one. The first mindfulness practice is ahimsa. This is to be mindful that we are operating in our lives in a state of non-violence. Non-violence is a peaceful, healthy way to keep our energy in our body so that we do not stress it out and move into a state of dis-ease or illness. Anger can take many hues: frustration, impatience, intolerance, expectations. Hatred being one of the most toxic, which is usually hatred towards ourselves, which we then project on other people. If we haven't managed to stop this survival energy in its less harmful stages, then it can turn into violence, meaning that we will be hurting ourselves indirectly. We eat too much, we drink too much, or hurting another person with our thoughts, words, and actions. It makes sense to be mindful and watch when we have been triggered into any hue of violence, and then take a stop, a mindful moment, ground down with any technique that we have learned in the first video. As a reminder, our external mindfulness, our internal mindfulness, calm breathing, and move ourselves back into balance. S, stop. T, take a mindful moment. O, observe what is happening. MP, proceed with compassion, understanding, kindness, and love. For yourself, this will keep you healthy, and for others, this will keep them healthy too. Compassion, understanding, kindness, and love is the remedy for violence in all its hues. In your workbook, write down your definition of violence in thought, word, and action, and explain how compassion and understanding, kindness, and love is the antidote for violence in all its hues. Let us talk about nonviolent communication. When somebody is doing or saying something that we feel is making us uncomfortable, we would need to say something. The way we say it is very important. The first order of the day is to say, stop, please stop, I'm not comfortable with that. The second thing to do is to tell them why. We explain why with an I message. I am not comfortable with that. I don't feel comfortable with that. I feel hurt when you speak to me that way. So we want to make sure it's an I message and not a you message. You are being very this and that and calling names. That does not work. The next order of the day is to tell them what you would prefer. I would prefer if you could speak to me in a less angry tone. In that way, I could hear you better. So nonviolent communication consists of 3 things: stop, send an I message to the other person, and then say what you would prefer them to do. And all done in a very loving, kind, compassionate way. The second mindfulness practice is satya. Satya means commitment to honesty. Honesty to yourself and others. This is necessary to mitigate a lot of stress and anxiety in our own lives and the life of others. Be true to yourself and honest with others. In your workbook, write down how you can be true to yourself and identify any areas where you can be more honest with others. This is an exercise in discovering how to be honest. The third mindfulness practice is asteya. This means to not take anything that does not belong to you or take anything that has not been freely given to you. Directly translated as not stealing. In our wisdom place, our peaceful place, we will feel very uncomfortable when we are taking more than we need or taking something that does not belong to us. Our rational mind can justify it, but we will move out of alignment with our peace and wisdom place, and that will bring us much anxiety, and with that comes dis-ease, which results in illness. The same goes for taking something that is not freely given. In your workbook, reflect on a time when you took something that from your wise place you knew did not belong to you, and write down how you felt. With this practice, we are mindful that we are living without stealing. Why do you think that is necessary? When we begin to teach our students these practices, we want to bring home to them why it is important to live a life of peace by practicing these yamas, because peace is their health. The fourth yama, mindfulness practice, is brahmacharya, which means the wise use of our creative energy. Brahma means creative energy, and charya means to use it in a way that does not hurt yourself or others. Creative energy is sexual energy, which is designed to make sure that our species continues. In your workbook, write down some unwise ways people use their sexual energy that harms themselves and harms others. What age group do you think this yama would need to be discussed with? The fifth yama, mindfulness practice, is aparigraha. This means to not get so attached to something or someone that is taking our peace and balance away. In your workbook, write down areas in your life, get mindful, introspective, and write down areas in your life where you're holding on too tightly to something, and it might be healthier to just let it go. The niyamas, mindfulness, self-inquiry practices to live a more peaceful, healthy life. The first niyama is saucha, which means clean is cool. Clean up our lives. Clean up our internal environment in your body, eating healthy food, natural food, non-chemical food. Clean up our outer environment. Clean up our house, our car. They say zen out our environment. Zen means lots of open space and not too much clutter. In your workbook, reflect on both these things. Ask yourself, what has cleanliness got to do with living a life of peace and health? The second niyama is santosha. This means live a life of contentment. In no matter what situation we find ourselves, be content. It may not be the most awesome or comfortable condition, but we can practice contentment in this difficult situation and be at peace and stay healthy. One way to stay content in a difficult time is by asking yourself, what am I learning from this situation? Remind ourselves that it is sometimes in the most difficult, uncomfortable situations that we grow the most. In your workbook, reflect on a very difficult time in your life and what important lesson you learned and how you grew from that. The third niyama is tapas, which means to live our lives the best we can in everything we choose to do. This eradicates depression and laziness, which takes us away from our peace and our health. When in a situation where you really do not feel like doing something, say to yourself, I am going to do this the best that I can. The fourth niyama practice is the practice of svadhyaya, which means deep, courageous self-inquiry, mindfulness, internal mindfulness, how we are thinking, how we are emoting, and how we are acting because of what we think and how it feels in the body. How what we are doing is affecting our personal peace, the others in our environment. During self-inquiries, we want to identify things that are not effective, things that we are doing that are not effective, and bring them into a more effective place. In your workbook, reflect on what your strengths are. Where do you feel you are operating in your life effectively? And then reflect on your weaknesses. Where are you operating in your life that is not effective and that needs to change? The final niyama is Ishvara Pranidhana, which means simply living from your wisdom place, not survival place. In order to help keep the pathway to our peace place, our wise place available, we practice Jyoti meditation daily and the mindfulness techniques. Remember, when we are living a life of peace, we have access to our wisdom. When we move away from our peace, the access to our wisdom is denied and shut down. In your workbook, reflect on how you will bring home the importance of living in the way we have discussed in this video, and how you will encourage and inspire your students of every age to adopt this mindfulness, peaceful, wise, and healthy lifestyle. This completes this lesson, and I will see you again in the next video. Welcome back. In this video, we'll discuss how to teach the mindfulness techniques to children ages 2 to 5. Let's begin with an overview of the need of the child at this age and stage of their development, physically, emotionally, and mentally. In this class series, you'll be asked to develop mindfulness and meditation classes for this age group. You can choose to do it in 2 ways. The first way, which I recommend, is to invite families to participate in these classes together. They can have a lot of fun with role play and discovery of these techniques, and it's a great way for the parents to spend time and bond with their child as they discover their personality of their child. You may choose to do the Yamas and Niyamas lessons with the child and parents separately or together, your choice. You can choose to do a few lessons with the child only and not have the parents present. In this way, we can offer the child some independence as we teach the child without the parent being present. You would want to meet with the parent after the class and let them know what you have worked on with their child during this class so they can back it up at home. Let's begin with an overview of the physical, psychological, and mental needs of a child at this age and stage of their development. At this age of the child's development, they are beginning to develop the faculty of discernment. At this age, children are learning how to figure out what is acceptable and what is not acceptable as far as their choices and their discernments go. What is the wrong way and what is the right way to operate in this world? They are navigating this important stage of their development by the response and the reaction of the caregiver to the choices they are making. When they choose to do something, they'll watch for the response of the caregiver. If the caregiver has a positive response to what they have chosen to do, the imprint in the child's psyche is that this worked, this is good, this is a good choice, this was a right choice. All children will naturally try out the limits of their territory. It is not necessarily the child's choices that we are concerned about. Rather, it is the way the caregiver helps the child at this age and stage of their development learn life skills and social skills in a peaceful, loving way. The reaction of the caregiver, their primary life skills and social coach, can help the child at this stage learn how to live a life in a peaceful way. The caregiver is teaching them by example how to live this way. Mistakes will be made. This is true throughout our lives, as we all well know. We make mistakes and we learn from them. This is how life parents us. As the child explores its capacity for discernment, we need to help the caregiver learn how to be careful that how they treat the mistake is balanced. A powerful lesson that is learned. Not too much drama and not too little concern, but just right. If the caregiver is disapproving and lets the child know in a calm manner, then the child will imprint in their psyche that this is most likely not a good choice. Deep imprints happen when things are done in a calm manner. Very confused and anxious producing imprints that are not stable and healthy giving happens in a hostile environment. This is the cause of anxiety attacks later on in a child's life, when the stakes get higher and are the result of negative imprints at this early stage. Remember that it was the child's faculty to practice discernment that made that choice. Their authentic self made that choice. Their autonomous self made that choice. If the reaction is unbalanced and very negative, the child may begin to feel it was not only the behavior that was not okay, but if the reaction was overly condescending and negative, the child feels they are fundamentally bad. They are no good. Something is wrong with them. They, as a person, are not okay. This is the difference between guilt and remorse on the one hand and shame on the other. The definition of guilt is, I have behaved badly. The definition of shame is, I am a bad person. Both are not healthy for any human being to live with. At the age of 2 to 5 years old, the child is also very attuned to their wisdom. So if the caregiver's response and reaction to their choice is in alignment with their higher intelligence, their wisdom, they feel at ease and in balance, and they grow up with a balanced, healthy ability to discern wrong from right, good from bad in their lives. So we can see that even at this stage of the child's development, they need an emotionally balanced caregiver or role model. In your workbook, reflect, were there any times in your young life that you received a negative imprint? And how is that affecting your adult life? At this age and stage of a child's development, children begin to form positive or negative body images according to how their caregiver is responding to their curiosity about their physical body. What do you think is a negative response to a child when they become curious about their physical body? How can we respond to a situation in a positive way? Children will begin at this age to form a positive or negative opinion about themselves. A positive opinion serves greatly for the child to deal with life's adventures and challenges effectively. The reaction of the caregiver, their role model, their teacher, as they spend each day learning how to navigate the world of people, places, and things with their caregiver. As they learn to navigate the more subtle part of their being, their feelings and emotions, thoughts, and ability to discern about those thoughts, it is very important that the caregiver remain balanced. The child at this age and stage of their development needs wow lessons. This is in alignment with their wisdom at this stage. They are naturally in a place of awe and wonder about everything that is showing up and going on in their life. This is where we, as their mindfulness and meditation teacher, can make a big difference in the child's life. Let us plan classes to help our child discover in awe and wonder these mindfulness and meditation techniques that we're learning in this course and the Yama and Niyama commitments. In doing this at such a young age, the imprint, if positive, will serve them for the rest of their lives, bringing them physical, emotional, and spiritual health. You can refer back to video 1 and video 2 to review these techniques if you wish. Let the child explore the dimensions of their self with wow, with awe and wonder. Helping the young child develop emotional intelligence is another very important aspect of their development. Emotions are the reactions to their thoughts and how their intellectual mind is judging those thoughts. The first level of education about thoughts and the corresponding emotion is learned by how the caregiver is reacting with the child. The second level of education is how the caregiver helps the child to get in touch with that part of themselves and explore it. Be mindful of it. Enjoy the awe and wonder of it. The child learns how to make choices in the world around them by the nonverbal and verbal reactions to what is going on around them by the caregiver. They develop emotional intelligence in direct proportion to how much time they are allowed to explore their emotions at this stage. They learn the good, the bad, and the ugly are all important. The emotional range of life's experiences represents all of the good adventures and the so-called bad emotional adventures, given time to explore all of them playfully with us. Every emotion deserves a little time and mindfulness. In this mindful place, the child can then decide and discern if the emotion is in balance, and if it is, they can decide to let it be, enjoy it for what it is, teaching them about themselves. After all, the emotions are their survival instincts. If the emotion is not in balance, then we teach the child to use one of our mindfulness and meditation techniques to bring the emotion back into balance. We do not want the child to think they need to get rid of the emotions. They do not want to fear their emotions or think of their emotions as bad no matter how uncomfortable they feel. Emotions are their survival instinct. All of them have benefit. However, we do want to teach the child how to keep that in balance. Balance equals peace, and peace equals health. We want our children to grow up emotionally healthy, which in turn will create physical and mental health for them. Oftentimes, you will see a child at this age try on many characteristics of their caregivers in order to see how it feels on them. For some, this becomes their personality and temperament. For others, they don't like it, especially if it has a negative effect on them. Negative effect means it is out of alignment with their peaceful place, with their wisdom, with their autonomy. Children get confused as to what to do in these cases because they feel their educator is not demonstrating things accurately. Some children have the wisdom and the connection to feel compassion for their out-of-balance caregiver. Some children, guided by their wisdom, will seek out other role models to mimic and try a different way. Maria Montessori believes a human's true parent is their wisdom. I must say, from my own experience, from having worked with children for over 40 years and raising my own child, I would agree with her. Other children will adopt the negative behavior of the caregiver, no matter how uncomfortable that feels to their wisdom and autonomous self, just because there is no other example around, and somehow they have lost contact or trust with their own wisdom and autonomy at this earlier stage in their development. Maria Montessori would say that in these cases, the strong, overly controlling parent unknowingly has replaced themselves with the child's innate wisdom. Instead of allowing the child in the previous stage of their development to develop and connect and trust in their autonomy and stay connected with their wisdom, the parent or caregiver has overpowered it and replaced it, leaving the child in a state of turmoil emotionally and confusion. Later on in their teen years, if they develop the strength, they will rebel and hopefully get back to their wise place. In my training to become a Montessori teacher, they implored us to do whatever we could to help the child develop a strong connection with their autonomy and wisdom, as this would help the child to navigate wisely through their lives. This, Maria said, was the greatest gift a parent or teacher could give to their child in their care, because the higher intelligence or wisdom will guide them for the rest of their lives, and they will trust and allow themselves to be guided by it. Especially when they get to the teen stage, where peers become more important than the parent. The peer's approval may become an issue. Once again, we see the need to have an emotionally intelligent caregiver to educate the child at this age about how to deal with the emotions. Our mindfulness and meditation techniques will give both the child and the caregiver the tools to develop emotional intelligence, which means to develop an understanding of how not to overreact or underreact to one's thoughts, which get felt in the body as feelings or emotions. Let's talk about reward and punishment. This is a strategy. Does it work? The effectiveness of reward and punishment as a teaching strategy is a matter of debate. To explore these ideas further, we can complete this assignment below. We will discuss it in our next session. Please research the difference between classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Get to know the origins of these two theories, their strengths and their differences, and the application. Then write a paragraph on what you learned during your research. Then write a paragraph on your feelings about whether these approaches would work to teach a child right from wrong at this age and stage of their development. Teach the child good from bad, appropriate from inappropriate, effective from not effective, success from failure. Some caregivers adopt the reward-punishment strategy of life education and parenting for their child as far as their behavior goes. This means that if you do something wrong, you will be rewarded. If you do something bad, you will be punished. Many believe this works because the child will feel good when rewarded and want to do that behavior again. And it creates a positive imprint, and it goes to the deepest place of their psyche. The child will feel bad when punished, which creates a negative imprint, which feels very uncomfortable, and they will not want to do that behavior again. As long as the educator, parent, or caregiver is balanced and not angry, impatient, or frustrated, this could provide significant life skills that will serve the child in living a successful life. However, we can begin to see if the educator, parent, or caregiver was out of balance, this could turn into trauma and abuse, and low self-esteem would be the result. The child would think they are doing something wrong, creating guilt. The child might ask themselves, "What did I do? I feel really bad." The child might also get the sense that they are fundamentally bad, which is shame. The child might wonder, "What is wrong with me? I must be a bad person." On the other side, if the child is patronized, they would have an overblown sense of self-esteem. So balance is very important. Honesty is very important with regard to the caregiver with their self and the child. Patrionizing is overly rewarding when they did not do anything They might feel an overblown sense of self, which is not going to serve them very well later on in their lives. As we are in a mindfulness and meditation course, and we are training to become a mindfulness and meditation teacher, our focus is on helping the child. The first focus is to help the child learn how to discern what is right from wrong in a loving, kind, respectful way. And our second focus is learn how to do this in a way that is healthy for themselves. We continue to make mistakes and learn from them throughout our lives. Also, others make mistakes, and everybody needs to be treated with love, kindness, and respect. In learning how to forgive ourselves and learn from our mistakes, we can learn to forgive others as well. So we will train on how to deliver the lessons of judgment calls, perception, and discernment with a kind, loving, respectful voice and attitude, with a sense of inquiry and awe and wonder, not in anger, frustration, fear, and imbalance. Wow! That is an interesting choice you just made, is our attitude when we are dealing with children of this age. Did it work out for you? Or could you have done something a little differently? Help them explore. I'd like to share a personal story. I was once an owner of a ballet school in Hoboken, New Jersey. There was an art festival going on, and I decided to take some of my young ballet students, ages 5 to 8, to enjoy the art being displayed at the gallery. The artists would be there present to talk with during this rare occasion of this festival. So I told the students before we left that even if they did not like the work of art they were looking at, there was no need to judge it as wrong or right, good or bad. Just look at it with interest, because every artist will express themselves in a different way, and we might like it or we may not like it, but that doesn't matter. It's just the artist's expression. So off they went in groups to explore the art. And I walked about enjoying how they were enjoying the art, and then they all stopped at a sculpture of a pair of naked women's breasts with big nipples. And they just stood there staring, and I could see they did not know what to think about that. It was a work of art, however. And then they looked at each other, and the oldest said, "This is interesting." I thought that was really cute, because the artist was standing there, and I had told them not to judge anything bad about the art, just enjoy it for what it is. The artist laughed and said, "Yes, isn't it?" So Maria Montessori would say, if a child is misbehaving, it is not because they are bad. It is because there is a behavior skill or social skill that they have not learned yet. They have not integrated it into their personality or temperament yet. This missing behavior needs to be taught. So we, as the mindfulness and meditation teachers, teach the parents in our courses to ask themselves this when a child misbehaves. What skill do I need to teach? Not what punishment should I give. It is the viewpoint of not punishing, but educating that we want to adopt. According to Maria Montessori, bad behaviors really mean a missing social skill, and that social skill needs to be taught. How we teach that skill is what we are focused on in this course. Let's take an example. Let's imagine that a child is not focused on the lesson and playing and is hitting another child. Is this bad behavior? No. Recall our previous conversation. We talked about stop, spiritual timeout method. Ask yourself, what skill is needed to be taught? That is all it is. It's a social skill that needs to be taught to that child. So we stop and teach the skill in a calm, loving, kind, and respectful way. If we have lost it, then that means that we should be honest with ourselves, practice satya, honesty. If we have lost it, then this means that we should Be honest with ourselves, practice satya. If we have allowed ourselves to get angry, annoyed, or frustrated with the child for not behaving, then say to yourself, I've lost it. I need to calm down and stop. Use one of the mindfulness, external or internal grounding techniques, or deep calm breathing techniques, or even meditation techniques, whichever one you feel will work the best at that time, and get back to your peaceful place. Then with compassion and understanding that is needed at these times, teach the skill that is lacking to the child. Respect the child's needs to learn from their mistakes. To teach the skill that the child lacks, remember that the child will learn in two different ways. The first way is you are modeling the skill, and as you talk to the child about it, remember that the child will learn from what you do, not what you say. Second way, encourage them to try the new behavior that you just modeled and see if it is more effective for them. That means that with the new skill that you have demonstrated and taught them, did they get a better result? Maria Montessori did not believe in reward and punishment. She felt that life itself and the response the children get from the people, places, and things in their physical life and during their social adventures would teach the lesson needed and offer reward and punishment in itself. No need to interfere with the natural order of things. These were the natural consequences of the choices being made. Maria Montessori would say, as a caregiver, we would only need to intervene if the child was going to get hurt or hurt another person. And even then, only to explain things in a loving, kind, and respectful way. Teaching children wow lessons along the way, the lessons of awe and wonder. So we have studied both imposed reward and punishment, which can work well in some incidents, and natural reward and punishment. Both are effective if done in a balanced and emotional healthy way. Let us discuss a balanced reward or punishment and then compare that to an imbalanced one. For example, if you finish your food, you'll get a dessert. So we've added something good that'll happen after you've finished your food. And if you don't finish all your food, you will not get a dessert. So this is us showing something bad that will happen if you don't do what you were told to do. Can you think of other both balanced and unbalanced reward and punishment scenarios? Consequences that focus on punishments, and then consequences that focus on rewards. Which type of consequence do you feel would work better, and why? So let's take emotional mindfulness. Let's take a few minutes to review the techniques that we can use to be able to interact in a loving, kind, and respectful way. We will teach these techniques to the caregiver and the child so that they have the tools to self-regulate when going out of balance. You can review video 1 and 2, all the mindfulness and meditation techniques at this point, and decide which ones you would teach this age group, 2 to 5, and how you will teach it according to what we have learned so far of the needs of a child at this age, physically, emotionally, and mentally. For your homework, using all the information you learned about what a child needs at this age and stage of their development, create a series of classes to teach the mindfulness techniques, the stop technique, external grounding, internal grounding with the physical, emotional, mental, and intellectual energy, affirmations, mantra, jyoti meditation, yama and niyama. My suggestion is to develop a class that has the caregiver and the child in it together, exploring all these techniques. Let them both work on the mindfulness and meditation techniques together with role play and interaction. Have fun, enjoy yourself. Contact me if you have any questions. That ends our lesson for today. Thank you, and I'll see you again on the next video.